When we are testing a car, there are certain things that you have to be aware of to make sure you can make the correct changes for the problem that you have. The biggest problem that most people have is they forget to think about the major thing that affects the handling of the car, and that is weight transfer. And you have to figure out where the weight is needed, first of all, and that is going to be due from the driver's responses. If the car is understeering or oversteering, the driver has to first of all know what the difference is between oversteer and understeer. For instance, in this shot, this car is understeering through this corner because he's turning the wheels more than he should have to get around the corner. The front wheels aren't responding. And the difference is between that and oversteers in this shot is that the tail end of the car is rotating too fast. It's not sticking well enough. It obviously doesn't have enough weight on it. Now you have to figure out, first of all, which the car is doing and in which part of the corner, if it's doing it on the entry of the corner or the exit. And you have to affect the weight transfer somehow in the chassis. In other words, you have to get the weight to transfer where you want it to by either changing the shocks, the spring heights, the rake of the car, which is the difference in right height front to rear. Maybe if you have wings on the car and it's a high-speed understeer or oversteer, you can change the wing angles. If you want more weight on the front of the car, you put more wing on the front of the car. If you want more weight on the back, you put more weight on the back, more wing on the back. All this thinking is logical. As long as you look at the car and you say, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get weight here? You shouldn't have any problem with it. The sway bars are the other thing you always want to try to use to get some weight transferred. If you have an understeer problem, you usually want to tighten up on the rear bar or soften the front bar. A lot of people have a tendency to, when they have a handling problem such as understeer, they try to make the other end of the car stick a little bit less to make the car handle better. Well, it would always be a better situation to make the end of the car that's not sticking work better, so the whole car will stick better itself. And so that is the case that if the car is understeering, you would probably want to soften up the front end of the car. Try to think about all these things as you're going through your test session, and make sure that you only do one major change at a time. The only exception to the rule is if you have an engine problem and you have a handling problem at the same time, you can make a change to each area because they don't affect each other very much. Obviously, you don't want to change horsepower drastically because it'll change the handling of the car. If you do that one at a time. But as you go through our test session in the next part of the tape, you'll find that we use a logical progression of changes, doing one at a time, and we end up solving our basic problem. Well, now it is the time to put it all together. So far in this tape, we've shown you how to align the chassis in the garage, and now we're going to show you the correct procedure to use at the racetrack during your testing session. The first step in your testing session is to make sure that you come prepared. You want to make sure the car is ready to run and it's going to be reliable throughout the whole day. Always make sure you've got all the parts necessary to keep the car running and that you might want to try on the car during the day. Also make sure your batteries are charged, you've got enough gasoline and oil and fluids to keep the car going. In this case, I was not available for the preparation in the garage, so we're going to have to fit me to the car. Now, we thought about this ahead of time, and so we got to the track early to make sure we didn't waste any track time doing this. We're going to have it finished by the time the track opens, because track time is expensive at certain tracks. You also want to start making a list of what the car is set at, including the specifications from the garage session. We want to make sure that we have everything written down as far as the shocks, the type, the settings, the bar sizes, the springs on the car, and everything else that may be pertinent information that you might have to refer back to as a starting point. You want to set your tire pressures to make sure that you've got them at a cold pressure that's going to expand to the warm pressure you want to end up with later on. Remember that they on a very cold day will expand a little more than they do on a warm day. Also, check the rest of the car to make sure everything else is tight, especially the wheel torques. A lot of people have a tendency to forget the minor things because they're worried too much about trick stuff. And make sure that the car is set to the specifications that we have on the sheet. And especially if you've had a late night session previous to this day, check over the car visually and with wrenches to make sure that everything is tight. A lot of times people work real hard and late hours and they forget things on the car. And when they wake up in the morning, their mind's fresh and they can refer back to what these items were, and they remember a lot of things that could cause trouble later on. Now also on your list, you want to write down the weather conditions at the track. Write down whether it's warm, what the temperature is, if it's sunny, if it's overcast, if it's damp, because these can affect the track conditions very greatly. And you might have to refer to these later on when you come up against these conditions in the future. Make sure the driver fits to the car well. You want to make sure he's comfortable, that the belts fit him, and always have some sponge rubber available if that's necessary. In this case, I'm going to need a little bit.
I don't like that.
Okay, have you got some sponge?
Yeah, I do have some sponge. Vic, in the right corner.
If the driver's not comfortable in the car, he's not going to be able to concentrate, and he's not going to be able to get a feel for the car. This has to be taken care of, and if the driver's picky, all the better. And when you first start the motor, make sure you give it plenty of time to warm up. This is the hardest time on the engine's life, especially when the oil is cold on a cold day. If you have access to a oil warmer, then use it. If you can thin the oil out just a little bit, it's a lot easier on the motor and you have less chance of spinning a bearing. My engine man says that our bottom ends look really, really good on the motors, and we believe it's because we take great care in warming up the oil. I never leave the pits until the oil is up to temperature. If it's a very cold day, you might want to tape off the oil cooler and the water radiator to get them up to operating temperatures. When you leave the pits, make sure your mechanic is watching behind you so you don't pull out in front of another car and he points you out. In the first couple laps, make sure you warm up the car very gradually and that you concentrate on memorizing the track conditions. If it's damp in certain spots, the track's rougher than what you remember. Remember your line and your technique so you can get back into the groove again. This takes time. Be sure to watch the gauges. In the first couple of laps, especially if your motor is new, this is when the problems will develop with oil pressure or water temperature. Never drive so fast that you don't have time to receive all these inputs from the gauges and from the car and from the track. Never drive at the speed where things are coming up too fast for you. You never want to get behind the car or the track. You won't be able to pick up any information this way if you're driving on instinct. Always take note of what the car is doing in this period, if it's bottoming or not, and then come back into the pits in about 2 laps to report, even if nothing is wrong. Things come loose on everybody's car. It doesn't matter what team you're driving for or whose car it is. You must check the car over, even if it feels perfect. When the car stops, one man talks to you, the rest of the crew works on the car and visually checks it over. This is the time also, especially if the car has been recently rebuilt, that you want to recheck the wheel torques and the hubs, because a lot of times they have to be worked on the racetrack to get them to seat properly. So check these things right away to make sure they're not coming loose initially, because they might take a set after you drive them a while.
Probably not any good. Terrible.
The tires that you use in this session should be old tires, from a previous race, from a previous test session, whatever. You don't want to waste new tires in the first session when the driver's trying to get his rhythm set. And readjust your padding for the driver if necessary. A lot of guys have a tendency to use new tires in a session, especially the first session. If you've got the money, go right ahead. Most of us don't. And it's a waste of time and money. It's a lot better to go out on old tires as long as the driver remembers that the car is not going to handle very well and that should not make any big decisions on the way the car is feeling. And after he drives around the track and gets his rhythm and gets his sloppiness out of his system, and his times become a little more consistent, and he pronounces the car undrivable on these tires, that's the time to come in and put the new rubber on.
That's the problem.
Now make sure that when he comes in, that the driver comes in, that the tires are aired and ready to go on the car. The less amount of time spent in the pits means the driver doesn't have to readjust to get back up to speed again when he leaves. And make sure the driver stays in the car.
The front sway bar control, incidentally, in is hard. Okay. Pardon me?
When you have the wheels off the car, make a visual check underneath to make sure nothing's going wrong. No leaks, nothing's come loose, there's no cracks, there's nothing breaking. Always do this. It doesn't matter what's happening with the car. You always want to visually check things over when you're touching it or working it over. When the driver goes out on the new tires, he must remember that they are new and they will take time to scrub in. The car's not going to feel very good for the first couple laps, and it's not going to stick very well at all. As he slowly picks up his speed and gets some heat into the tires, he must remember to feel the impressions that are different than what the car was before. As he goes around the track, he must memorize what the car is doing at each point on the racetrack. It might handle different in one corner than another, and whether or not it pushes on the entry or it oversteers or whatever it does in relationship to the throttle and the brake. He must remember what he is doing to affect the handling of the car. Now, for instance, on this corner, as you watch the car, you'll see it turn in relatively well. It points well, but then on the way out of the corner, when I hit the throttle, it goes back to a push or an understeer. It wants to go straight, and I have to lift off the throttle a little bit, and my exit speed suffers. In the high-speed turns, the car has a tendency to understeer or go straight also, and I can't go through here as quickly as normal. Now, the driver has to figure out whether or not it's him causing these problems or it's the chassis itself. And if he's new to the car, or especially if he's new to the track, this may take 4, 5, 6 laps in the first couple sessions to get him used to things. Allow him this time to get his rhythm down and to make sure he has a good memory of what is wrong with the car. He must be able to drive at a pace quick enough to get the car to work, but also remember slow enough so he doesn't get ahead or behind of what's going on. After the car stops once again, have one man talk to the driver, and the other ones check the car over. In this case, we have a gear change problem, trying to figure out if it's me or if it's the car.
Third's okay?
It might just be me, I don't know.
Okay, I hope it's you. Let me check under the
Now we're going to
gas
try to
now.
cure the understeer
You
problem that
tighten
we
up in the
experienced
handlebar,
previously.
to make it turn in a bit better for now.
No, I'd like to put some arrow on the front.
Oh,
I don't think it's the bar,
okay.
because it gets worse as the speed goes up.
Oh, okay. It's not enough wing, huh?
I don't think so.
Now, as I was driving around, I was noticing that the understeer problem seemed to get a little bit worse as the speed went up. So logically, I would think that would be an aerodynamic problem. The speed goes up, the problem gets worse. The car is being affected. We put some more wing on the front to see if we can get some more weight on the front of the car. It still points in well, but still goes to a push on the exit. It didn't make any difference. And in the high-speed stuff, the car feels about the same. So obviously, during this period, I have to think, well, maybe I was doing something wrong driving style-wise. You got to make sure that it's not you causing the problem. And after you've decided what it is, you come back in and report.
Every once in a while on the low
Always
speed, I
keep
can
a
get
good record
little
of what's going on.
slidey on the way out, but not unless you try real hard with the throttle.
Okay.
Always record the driver's comments.
It's mostly on throttle. It won't turn.
Okay.
That's why I think it might be the rake.
Okay, you want me to jack the back end up? Okay, the back end looks like it's touching just a little bit. The front end doesn't look like it's touching at all. So I might be able to split it. One down, one up. That'll be about a quarter of 3/8 to a half of an inch rake.
And we have an understeer problem that we're going to try another method of fixing, and that is changing the rake, which is the ride height difference between the front and the rear.
But with the uneven pavement, it's
We're
pretty
trying to
difficult
decide whether or not we could lower the front or raise the rear. We want to know if the car's bottoming or not.
To touch it the right side of the rear skid plate.
Well, it's got to be going to one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's touching pretty well.
Okay, let's go up in the back then.
Okay, you want to make a change that you can feel, or you want to just go one? Let's go.
No, go a couple.
Okay.
You always make a change big enough so the driver can feel it. When you make a ride height change or a sway bar change, make sure you do both sides an equal amount. The only exception to the rule is when you're trying to jack weight on purpose. But making a change big enough for the driver to feel is very important in the early stages. We go back to our corner using the same driving style. And as you notice, on the entry of the corner, the car still turns in, but now it snaps to a vicious oversteer in the middle, but still goes to a push on the exit. So what we've done with the ride height change, or the rake change, is we've caused a transition problem in the car, which is transition from entry to exit. It makes the car very, very hard to drive through every corner. So obviously we go back, we change the rake back to where it was and try another change.
And it's a very,
All right.
it's a fairly violent push. It just happens all of a sudden. And we got the bar almost soft. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
And the push in the high speed wasn't changed at all.
Okay. What did the I didn't ask you before. What did the front arrow change do?
I didn't do anything.
Zippo, huh?
19.5.
Nothing you should feel. This thing's fairly hard to drive.
Yes, it is. No. He didn't even complain? His complaint
And
was...
so now we made changes in 2 different areas with no effect. The only effect was bad. Now we're going to try an alignment change. We're going to try to put some toe in into the car to see if we can get the car to turn a little better on the exit of the corner. We go back out to the corner, hopefully using the same driving style, and try it again. As you notice, we go into the corner this time, and the car points just like it did, but now it keeps sliding on the way through the corner, and it points all the way through so I can stay on the throttle hard on the exit, which makes the exit speed a lot faster. On the high-speed stuff, the car turns in really well, and it follows the front end really well, so that means I can stay on the throttle very hard through the high-speed section. And we've arrived at this conclusion through a logical progression of changes, making one change at a time and making notes on every change. As you go through your testing session, make sure your crew always keeps a good record of the changes, your impressions, and the lap times. It's the only way you can go back to figure out what you've done in the past, which could help you in the future. You will usually end up with a good handling car if you follow this procedure, or a car that you know what the problem is so you can fix it when you get back to the shop. There's also a good frame of mind to keep while testing, and that is to be as easy on the car as possible. It's unnecessary to be hard on it in a session like this. Especially if you spin, you don't want to beat the car to death. It's the driver's fault, it wasn't the car's fault. This type of treatment only causes everybody time and money. Remember driver-to-mechanic communications. You must respect each other and each other's mistakes. You must accept them. Remember, this is a team effort. Let's go back through the garage session step by step and explain the basic steps that we want to remember when we do align the race car. The first one is you want to make sure you clean the chassis. Make sure that you've got all the grease off of it, you check for cracks, and it's a lot easier to work on the car if it is clean. The next step is to make sure that you have your specifications, your alignment specifications that you're going to set the car to, such as the ride height, the camber, the caster, the toe, and all the other pertinent information you may need to set the car up before you leave the shop. This should be determined by previous testing or by a previous owner or by factory specifications you may get with the race car. The first step in the garage itself is to level the car on a level spot in the garage. You want to use shims if you have to get the car, the chassis itself so it's level, and you want to make sure that you get the tires side to side on a level plane with the chassis itself. This is a very important step that most people have a tendency to pass over, and you want to make sure that you get it as close as possible. When you do this, make sure the tires have air in them, the proper pressure, and that you have the proper tires on the car themselves. Sometimes you want to measure the circumference to make sure that the tires are the same size from side to side. The next step is to check the suspension slop and travel after you get the shocks off the car and you have the chassis set on the blocks. Make sure that the suspension moves through its travel without any binding, without any slop, and that your rod ends are all tight, the bolts are all tight, you don't have any elongated holes anywhere, and this will save you a lot of time and trouble later on if you find it early and correct it soon enough. The next step is to check the track from side to side. This involves setting the camber at 0 to begin with and measuring from each wheel to the center line of the chassis to make sure the wheels are equidistant from side to side. And since you've already set the camber with this step, you no longer have to go back to the camber unless you're going to have a setting other than 0. So make sure you do the camber, you set the track, and then the next step after that would be setting the caster if you want to. The track setting and the caster is something that you usually only have to do when the car is new or after the car has been bent. During a normal season, you usually don't have to reset the track at all unless you replaced a corner or something. After this, you want to set the camber if it's not going to be 0. And the next step is to set up the strings for the adjustment of the toe and the checking of the bump steer. As we explained in the garage session, at the end of the garage session, it would be a lot more advantageous and a lot easier to have a jig set up to make a jig for your particular car. If this is possible, this is the time to put it on the car and to set the toe. You want to lock the rack at this time too if you're going to go to that extent. The next thing is to check the bump steer after you check the toe. Make sure the car doesn't have any bump in it unless you want some in. And then after you're done with the bump, then you set your toe back to where it belongs, to the settings that you have in your specification sheet. The next step is to replace the shocks, put the car on the ground with the proper amount of weight in it, and to set the ride height. At this time, if you're going to go to that extent, you want to check the wheel weights, and the last step after this is to set the bar preload on the sway bars. Make sure that you don't have any preload in the bar unless you want some for some reason. As far as the testing session is concerned, you want to make sure that you have everything tight on the car, and once again, when you arrive to the track, make sure that the car is going to keep running all day long and that you have all the equipment that you may need to try on the car or change on the car. And after you go through the testing session, make sure you're only making one change at a time and that you're also reversing the changes that did not work. Go back to where the car was and then try another change. With all this this logical thinking, you shouldn't have too much trouble with setting the car up, and at the end of the day, hopefully you'll have a successful day. I'd like to wish you luck with all this information that we've given you, and if you have any questions, be sure to refer to Carol Smith's books if you need to. Those are treated as the Bible by most racers, and go back through the tape again, and don't be afraid to go back and just check on the different steps that we need to follow. It's very easy when you're at the racetrack to get excited and to lose your train of thought. Once again, good luck with it, and I hope you enjoy it.